So, Adrien, thanks very much for inviting us. Jean-Claude, do you want to introduce yourself?
Short introduction. So I'm Jean-Claude. I'm taking care of a Thales account at Capgemini.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. Tony, our pre-sales superhero. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Tony. I've been working for Thales for about 8 years, and I'm an SE.
Right. Cheers, Tony. And so I'm James Langley. I'm the Global Account Manager for Capgemini at Thales CPL. We're going to tell you about Thales CPL as the slides run through. I'm also a Certified Data Protection Officer for GDPR. And yeah, thanks for coming. We're going to talk about data protection to public cloud workloads. We're also going to talk about the offer that Capgemini and Thales have built together. However, we will start with a 1 minute video or 2 minute video. Let me just explain the context. This is in America. It's in the Senate. And it's after the Equifax data breach back in 2017-18. 150 million Americans' data was stolen, including mail address, name. There were some bank details, security, social security numbers. And this is basically the ex-CEO being grilled by the government, by the Senate, and the new CEO being grilled by the Senate about the data breach. And I just want you to see the reaction and see how things go for these guys that didn't do what they should have done to make things work. Right, let me just go on mute.
Mr. Smith, it's my understanding that the data accessed through Equifax's consumer dispute portal was not encrypted at rest. Is that correct?
Correct.
If the answer is yes, as you said it was the fact that this data remained unencrypted at rest the result of an oversight, or was that a decision that was made to manage that data unencrypted at rest?
There are multiple tools we use and used to use when I was there to secure data: encryption at rest, encryption in motion, tokenization, masking, firewalls. Multiple layers of security. Encryption is only one. If you look across our...
So a decision was made to leave it unencrypted at rest?
Correct.
Mr. Barros, since you took over as part of your internal response to the breach, have you directed the company to encrypt such data? Or have you been recommended to encrypt such data so it is encrypted at rest?
We have done a top-down review, comprehensive top-down review of our security situation. We use outside companies to help us to do that, PwC and Median. We are strengthening our
So let me just, yes or no question. Does the data remain unencrypted at rest?
It's going to be part of the process. It has been reviewed.
Yes or no? Does the data remain unencrypted at rest?
I don't know at this stage.
You don't know if this is the reason why it was breached. Is that correct?
There's
this data was unencrypted.
Encryption is one format of defense. We have several formats on defense and tools in place now that can prevent this to happen.
And this data remains unencrypted at rest.
We have deployed several different tools.
Okay, did you hear that? Did that come through okay?
Yes.
You did, great. So, yeah, you can see, and they did mention that there were several tools. I'm going to cut the camera. There were several tools that they used to encrypt, to protect the data. There's different ways of doing it, but the baseline is that they didn't encrypt the data at rest, and that's why the breach was available. That's why it happened. and that's why the data could be used and stolen by other people. So, yeah, we're just setting the scene for the discussion. And strangely, you might think this is 2017. You might think that now everybody does this. Well, this year until now, we've got Ticketmaster, 560 million records. We've got AXA, we've got Cdiscount in France. And yeah, there's literally millions of records. Again, things haven't really changed over the last few years, and we're going to talk about that now. Let me just go to the presentation and present. Tell me when you can see it.
Yes.
That's okay.
So good. So that's in presentation mode. Great. Okay. So yeah, we've got 5 points we're going to see. We're going to look at the joint Capgemini Thales data security offer. We're going to have a zoom on data protection in public cloud and a look at the first customer win that we have. Tony's going to show us a demo of how this technology works. And we've also got, and then finally, a takeaway. So let's have a quick introduction to Thales and who we are. Thales, you may have heard of us, big multinational conglomerate, different divisions, space, aerospace, defense and security. And Tony and I are in the digital identity and security division. So it's the ex-Gemalto division. Within this division, there is a cybersecurity division. We have over 35,000 customers using our technology, as you can see from some of the logos. We've just integrated with Imperva, a big 3.5 billion euro integration, and this has now propelled us into one of the top 10 cyber ISVs. So we're up there with people like Palo Alto, Fortinet, etc. Just a quick overview, so it's on your radar of our product range. So in terms of application security, we've got the Imperva suite with the WAF, DDoS protection, bot protection, API security. On the data side, and this is where the ultimate data protection offer is built, Thales, so the encryption, tokenization, key management, hardware security modules, data governance, data discovery. And also we have the identity side as well. So the customer identity access management and the workforce identity too. That just gives you a quick overview of the whole range. And so if you have a project that may need some of this, then you can think about us, think about coming to us. So yeah, some of the context. You've seen the Equifax video, the very uncomfortable video for the CEOs. Unfortunately, this is still continuing, these data breaches. Ticketmaster this year, I mentioned 560 million customer data files stolen, non-encrypted. AT&T, 65 million sensitive data stolen, unencrypted. Last year or 2022, 40 terabytes of data got stolen from continental Germany. Again, unencrypted. This was then encrypted and then put on the darknet and to be sold. So yeah, the problem's not going away. Just a few words about what we do and some of them, just so we're all on the same level. So how does encryption and key management protect your data? So on the left, we have the key. We have the unprotected data. It goes through an encryption algorithm. The data is scrambled, and then the key is stored in a secure place. So a key management system or an HSM. So that's what we're talking about, just to give you a high level view of where we are. And obviously, protected data means that if it's stolen, it can't be used. It's unreadable. So we've built this offer together. You may know Jerome, top left of the screen. So we built this offer together with the global GBU Cyber, and we're launching it now. We've managed to get our first few customers, and basically we've done this for several reasons. Obviously the data breaches, which just carry on, they just don't stop. This shows the immaturity of our customers, and this shows that although encryption is quite widely used, it's not deployed as much as it should be. Otherwise, there would be a reduction in data breaches, and in fact, there's an increase in data breaches. But also, other reasons why we've put this offer in place. Obviously, explosive data growth. It's becoming more and more complex operationally to manage this, and compliance as well. So we've put the offer together to have data governance to help manage some of the risks, the ransomware, the data breaches, the quantum risk, which is now apparently beginning to appear as well, and obviously to help with compliance. So I'm going to explain how we help with compliance, privacy, and the data sovereignty side. So things are moving quite quickly. We've now got some of the architecture frameworks which say that encryption should be used. So within NIST, we've got different sections, ISO 27002, section on the use of cryptography, and there's the Gartner section as well, but also in terms of legislation. And we've seen different legislations coming out, obviously GDPR. Within GDPR, section 32, they mention of security processing, the data should be encrypted. In NIST 2, Article 21, the same. Within DORA, it goes even more into depth about how the data should be protected and how those keys, encryption data keys, should be protected as well. And we're getting more and more into depth and into detail of and being more prescriptive about the use of cryptography and protecting the data with this methodology. Jean-Claude.
So now you understand this is a joint offer that we have defined with Thales. And at this point, we are going to go together and meet our customer or prospect to sell this encryption, which are key if they want to move to public cloud. And at this point, the work we have to share together is quite clear. Okay, Capgemini as a consulting company will help the governance of data inside the customer. We will manage the key as well, and we are able to interface what we need to share the data that have to be encrypted with the information system. On the other side, Thales is bringing their solution, okay? Their ability to help the customer and us to find the sensitive data, to how to protect the data. Sometimes they will need to have a specific module for that. And we will have a board able to manage which data will be encrypted and how to control them.
Okay, thanks, Jean-Claude. So yeah, the value proposition, and we've touched on some of these points already. Remember, when the data is encrypted and it's stolen, it's useless. So this is what Equifax should have done. It's what Continental should have done. It's what Ticketmaster should have done, and they didn't do it. Okay, that's the key point. We support achieving maintenance and compliance. So you've seen when you start protecting the data through encryption, then you can start ticking boxes for GDPR, for PCI DSS, for HIPAA, also for DORA and NIST 2. So you can start ticking those boxes. Article 9 in DORA, yep, we've done that. That's we've got a policy in place, etc. Those keys are protected. The value proposition as well. Obviously, we've got some great expertise with the Capgemini guys. We're going to go into a little bit data. We've got 12 people across Europe and one in the US who's already trained on our products. So we're ready to go. We've got a couple in Spain, a couple in France, UK, a couple in Germany as well. So yeah, we're all ready to go, and we've got some seasoned professionals to help us with Capgemini. We're going to talk about one of the use cases, because there are literally hundreds of use cases, but we're going to talk about one of the use cases about bringing data protection to public and hybrid cloud. And one thing that's important as well is that we're centralizing, and the next slide is going to show this. We're proposed to centralize this encryption to enable a centralized policy driven. So you can see on the next slide, and if there's one slide to retain, it's probably this one. On the left-hand side, this is what happens. This is what's happening with our customers at the moment. Some data is protected, some isn't, as we've seen. But in any case, it's very rare that there's a single policy to manage that data that's encrypted or tokenized or protected, and also the management of those keys. It's often in silos, and obviously that's increased with the use of the cloud as well. So on the right-hand side, this is what we propose. We have an orchestration platform which, with over 500 integrations, which can manage and orchestrate those keys in a single way with a single interface. And that's what we're proposing, to have a single interface. With this platform, it enables, obviously, it facilitates compliance, because you can have an auditable area of where those encryption keys are kept and where the data is encrypted. We can have a single policy as well, so we can have an actual policy of when those keys are updated, etc. Obviously, it increases security because you've reduced the silos and simplifies key management.
James, just to we have asked Adrien to talk to the architect committee, because you are the guys who are able to understand the left part of this slide. Okay, and you will be the advisor for your customer if they want to move more data, more application on public cloud. You can tell them we have a solution for you.
Okay, thanks, Jean-Claude. Okay, so let's have a look at data protection in public cloud. So let's talk about sovereignty, digital sovereignty. This is the World Economic Forum description. So there's 3 different areas that they define it in. So basically, the main word is control. It's over control of your digital destiny. That's what sovereignty means. So it can be the data, the operations, and the software or technology that you rely on. So there are 3 different areas. So our offer, we help you to protect the data, and we help your data to be sovereign wherever it is, because nobody else can read that. Obviously, we don't look after the operations and the software, but there are other companies and operations that are able to do that, notably with the sovereign clouds, which are beginning to appear. So yeah, Capgemini is obviously the thought leader in this area. There's a few white papers that have been released by Capgemini. I know in the French market, we've got Sense, which is a sovereign cloud. There's Cloud Avenue, Orange, there's Bleu. This is great. So perfect. There is going to be sovereign clouds arriving. We reckon that there's going to be between 20 and 30% of data maximum goes into those cloud. What happens to the other 70, 80% of data that's going into public cloud? That's where we have the solution to help customers move that data into the public cloud. So I guess the first thing, and this, as architects, you probably know this, but it's customers are still struggling with this. When you put data into the cloud, the cloud, the hyperscaler is in charge of the security of the cloud, but the data, the identity and access management and the operational resilience is the responsibility of the customer. And this is too often forgotten. So the customer should be in charge of this and should be responsible for this. Often they forget or they don't think about it. And I think that's our duty to remind them of this cloud shared responsibility model, which is available from all of the different hyperscalers, from AWS, GCP, and Azure. So the sovereign controls we're talking about, this is beginning to become obviously recommended strongly by the analysts. So Gartner is talking about effective cloud strategy. They say you should be using third-party tools, i.e., for instance, Thales. IDC as well They're saying major enterprises will mandate data sovereignty controls from their cloud providers. And Gartner as well, they go into more detail. They're talking about user-controlled key management. So it's not only do the analysts talk about this, but we're also beginning to see the first case law. So this was a case law. This was COVID data that was put onto AWS through the website Doctolib. So this is patient data. It's PII data. It's sensitive health data. Some Doctolib were taken to court because some privacy associations said, "Hey, you can't put French health data onto AWS. It's an American cloud, and there's problems there." Conseil d'État, which is the highest French court, they said they looked at the case and they threw the case out. They said yes, the correct contractual measures, a minimization of the data was done as well, but also the technical safeguards have been put in place. Let me read it. The judge noted, technically, the data hosted by AWS is encrypted and the key is held by a trusted third party in France and not by AWS to prevent data from being read by third parties. So this is common knowledge. It's Thales technology behind there, and the third party was Atos in this case. So this model of putting data into public cloud, but encrypting it and separating the key and managing the key separately, this model is now being validated by case law and by more and more use cases. So these are an example of some of the services that are available with external key management, all off the shelf. Obviously, AWS, GCP, Azure, Oracle, they've all been requested by their customers to provide this sort of technology. So we've got over 100 customers running with this technology. Unfortunately, it's still massively underknown and underused with the customers.
And this is probably something that this community of architects need to know.
Exactly.
They are on the shelf, ready to play number of services to this huge perimeter for us. They are all our destination for our customer, and having this function available, ready to play, it's very important.
Yeah, it's all out of the box, but unfortunately, it's not mainstream yet. So I mean, 100 customers is still pretty good, and there's big banks using this. There's automotive companies. There's big petrol companies. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of companies using this, but there's a long way to go, and I think we need to educate people. So we're going to talk about the first customer win that we have together. So this is with Norwegian Health Data. And I'm just replaying slides that were presented at the AWS Summit by a guy called Matthias Persson, who's your cloud CTO, Capgemini Nordics. And he's called this Making It Real, bringing cloud sovereignty with Capgemini and AWS. So remember, we spoke about sovereignty, what it means. This is Capgemini's description of sovereignty: technology, data and operations. In this case, they went further than the data. They used Thales technology, we'll see in a minute, but they went further than the data. They put in place some technology and operational sovereignty as well. Remember as well the cloud shared responsibility model that we mentioned. Again, so here in this case, Capgemini responsible for security on the cloud, so providing the external key management, but also some of the sovereign controls, the application use cases, and AWS responsibility for security in the cloud. Okay, so again, great example of the shared responsibility. And here's the architecture of what we did together. So basically, this is Norwegian Health Data. They wanted to move it to the cloud, obviously for the advantages and the flexibility of the cloud. They needed a GDPR compatible environment, no sharing with data with external parties or employees, and the Norwegian government control their key. So it means nobody can access that data. And this is using Thales technology. The data stays in Europe. I guess it's AWS AWS technology keeping in Europe. So that's just a high level vision of the first win that we have together. This is a public reference, so obviously you can talk to customers about this. What we're going to do now is look at the demo, and Tony, I'm going to hand over to you. We're going to show you our orchestration platform. We're going to show you the multi-cloud feature. So basically we can manage multi-clouds, but also we're going to show you the power of managing your own key separately. Tony, can I hand over to you?
Absolutely. I'm just waiting for my screen to come up.
Yeah.
That's okay, we can see.
Oh, fantastic. Right, so I'm just going to give you a little, I created this little animation this morning to try and explain just in brief how it actually communicates with the external. I was asked by James to try and clear this up a little bit. So if you can see here, we've got probably would be you, Cyber Trust Manager, and then AWS. And in AWS, we have a key management service, AWS KMS. And that's where the native keys, etc., for AWS are stored. And then I'm sure you're all familiar with AWS S3 buckets just for keeping storage. So what happens is you log into the Cyber Trust Manager, you create your AWS cloud connection, and that adds a KMS account to Cyber Trust Manager. And this is, we use IAM in AWS and create like a REST API username and password with the correct permissions. Then we create a linked AWS external key store. And that creates the corresponding resource, basically what they call a proxy inside the KMS. Then we create a linked XKS key, which lives on the Cyber Trust Manager, in other words, in the external key manager. And Cyber Trust Manager automatically creates that corresponding resource, so a bit like a Linux soft link, so to speak. And that becomes visible in AWS's KMS. And now suddenly your AWS cloud admins can use that AWS XKS key to protect their services, even though it's living on the Cyber Trust Manager or the external KMS. So one last quick slide is just to show you the demo that I'm going to be giving just now. So we've turned it around. I upload a photograph or a database or whatever information I want to into an S3 bucket. AWS S3 calls the AWS KMS to produce a data encryption key. Then the KMS sends an encrypted version of that data encryption key to Cyber Trust Manager for double encryption. Cyber Trust Manager verifies the authenticity of my request, or at least of AWS's request, using account credentials. Cyber Trust Manager then uses, sorry?
Go ahead.
Cyber Trust Manager then uses the XKS KMS key to double encrypt the encrypted data encryption key. We send it back to AWS. The KMS in AWS forwards the double encrypted key and plain text data key to AWS S3. And S3 encrypts the data with the plain text data key. I know that's a lot, and it's, if you want to get way more in depth with that, you can go and have a look at AWS's XKS page, where they really get nasty and deep.
So yeah, let's show how easy it is.
Sure. Yeah, you don't have to do any of this, so it's great. So if I log into my AWS, now just to show you quickly, the key management service is a service on its own, and you can see I've got keys here, etc. But I've got an external key store. I've got a couple, but my specific one is the CDSP as a service based in Frankfurt, XKS. And that's the link we were talking about, the proxy service that lives now, that Cyber Trust Manager creates it in here automatically for me when I connected. So, bit of the more fun stuff. Is everybody following me so far? I'm going to take silence as good.
Yeah.
Great. So if I come to my S3 bucket, let's see, what did I call it? There we go. XKS T-Staker. So you can see I've got an image in here, and I've got some JSON database type information. So if I click on that JPEG and I open it, there you can see little Roxy, my fox. Now, the point behind this is this picture is encrypted, and if I go to my Cyber Trust Manager, my external key manager, so you can see here I have connected to a whole bunch of clouds, Salesforce, GCP, Azure, AWS, SAP Data Custodian, and Oracle. Obviously, AWS is the focus today. I go to the actual keys. In my container, I have my external key manager. There it is. Remember the name, CDSP as a service, Frankfurt XKS. And from here, if I block access to AWS, so now AWS, remember AWS has to actually come to me, and it has to, I have to validate AWS's credentials before we do the double encrypt or the double decryption. So if I go back now, immediately you can see, and let me make that bigger. It's one of the, as architects, you all know, error messages can be really cryptic. This is the most beautiful error message I've ever seen in my 30-year career in IT. The external key associated with this KMS key is in an external key store and is not enabled in the external key manager. Enable it and try again. I mean, that's about as straightforward as you get, right?
Yeah,
Any
that's
questions?
great, Tony.
It's deflatingly simple, you know, if you were hoping for a big drum roll.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we've seen you're able to block, just with blocking the key with a centralized key management system, we're able to block the data and you've got control. And that's, again, sovereignty is about control. You can control who can see that and who can't see that. Tony, just a quick word about the multi-cloud functionality, because obviously that's one of the use cases. Another use case is the fact that we're able to orchestrate all of those keys from all of those clouds in one place with the same way of working, because believe me, all of those key management systems in multi-cloud work in different ways. You've got to be a specialist to manage that. So you can put in place a policy. Off you go. I'll let you talk.
Well, you can see here, so first of all, containers. Why don't I just go to where the keys are? The reason we have this intermediate step is, for instance, I can create separate containers all for just AWS based on regions. And this is really cool because I can have a global, I can choose. I can have a container per region so that I can really start to divvy up the administration, or I can have multiple regions like I have here. I've got Frankfurt, Ireland, and London all together. So from here, I then come to Cloud Keys and I would refresh all and it would populate here. And you can see some really cool information here, like for instance, origin. So this key was brought to AWS, so it was generated outside of and taken to AWS. This key is a hold your own key. So this is the XKS we're talking about. So in other words, this key is held outside of AWS. Native, this key was generated in AWS and is in AWS in the KMS in AWS, but I have visibility here and control from here. So I can control all of those from here. I can create my keys from here. If I have a Luna HSM plugged into Cipher Trust Manager, I can, for whatever reason, decide to actually generate the key directly on the HSM before pushing it up, but still have control through this KMS, Cipher Trust Manager.
So yeah, I think one of the things, if your customers are multi-cloud, our biggest multi-cloud customer is a global consulting and audit company. They have 4,500 cloud accounts over the main three clouders plus Oracle, Salesforce. And they, up until now, they were managing those keys independently per account, 4,500 accounts. I don't know if you can imagine how many tens of thousands of keys. Now they're centralizing everything in one place, one orchestration platform. So you can imagine the power of that. That's probably the extreme because it's it's multi-cloud with massive amounts of cloud. But I think some of the big conglomerates can easily have hundreds of cloud accounts.
And you can see here, I can actually set up things like key rotation schedules for all of them. And draw reports for all of them by actually setting things from here.
Yeah,
so
reports on auditing. And perhaps just the last point before we close on this one. Obviously, there's quantum coming. You may have read today or this week that some Chinese researchers have managed to break 22-bit standard algorithm with a quantum computer. That's going to come. The first thing with a quantum strategy you need to do is to have an inventory of your keys. Okay, so you know which keys you have and where they are and what type of keys you have. If you've already got a centralized way of managing those keys, you're already a big step to having that inventory that you need to know which keys need to be updated and when for quantum. And obviously all of our products are being upgraded to the latest quantum algorithms that have been selected by NIST. You may have heard back in August. So we have our first Luna HSMs that have been upgraded, and all of our products are on roadmap to ensure that we can upgrade and include those quantum keys. Thanks, Tony. I'm going to take over. We just finished. We've got 8 minutes and then 10 minutes of questions. Okay. Thanks, Tony.
Sure. Thank you.
Questions at the end. So we've done the demo. Let me see. Put the screen up. Okay. Go. Done the demo. Takeaway. Okay. So this is a big opportunity to move more workloads to public cloud. Obviously, this is risk-based. The customer and you have to go through, classify the data, Can we put this into risk, but into public cloud? Is it really too sensitive? Should it go into sovereign cloud, or should it stay on-prem? Obviously, this needs to be done to begin with, but we know that there's 50% of sensitive data going into public cloud, which is not encrypted. So already there's that 50% which should be. And we've seen the disastrous results of data breaches where data at rest is not encrypted. Speed, Jean-Claude's mentioned this. There are hundreds of services available today, out of the box integrations ready to go. The cloud hyperscalers have been requested by customers to implement this. This has been put into place, and now everything is ready to go. It's off the shelf. It's new. This is what I said. It's not mainstream yet. We need to educate and evangelize the customers on this innovation. We have the AI, a demo video for ultimate data protection. So this is one of the first in your AIEs in the different countries. We have a demo video available, 5 minutes, which can show you what we can do with this particular use case. In terms of the go-to-market,
so the go-to-market, guys, chaps, you are part of this go-to-market. You have to know that we have 100K of funding together per year to finance proof of concept or marketing event to help you to sell to your customer. We have already more than 12 architects from CIS that have been certified in different countries, as you see. We have this first win together in Norway, and which is a very good signal for all of us. As soon as public services are wondering how they will go to public cloud, we have a solution for them. So the co-selling is together. The team of
so co-selling on the call. I've seen we've got Mike from Switzerland who looks after Capgemini Switzerland. I think we've got. Is there anybody else from Thales on the call? Oh yeah, there's Christophe. Christophe is with us, so he's
Portugal.
So he looks after France. And yeah, so
Johan is also present.
Hey, sorry, who's that?
Johan.
Hey, Johan, great. So we've got Belgium, who's
1 point.
So we've got Belgium present as well. So in every country we have teams looking after Capgemini, and we have pre-sales and we have salespeople, so we can help you to take this offer to market together. And the last point,
and all you can which can help you is on export. You have all the materials, and don't hesitate to reach me. I will organize with James how we can go for the market. That's an important point that we know. There is a big energy in Europe. He make his use case ROI only on the penalties he will get from GDPR.
correct.
So that's very interesting to see if they can calculate easily their ROI, because if they don't do that, they will pay fine from the EU. So this is very interesting to see that the ROI is real.
And so just one last final point, and then we can take some questions if you have them. Watch the space in the coming months. We're working with Capgemini to use this technology to help your own use of cloud as well. So there'll be an announcement, and if we can check with Adrian to do another session in a couple of months' time, that will be with pleasure. So yeah, there's going to be hopefully some good news coming very, very soon on this as well.
That's it.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Jean-Claude.
Any questions
you,
from
guys.
the team?
Very clear. There are already a few questions on the chat. The first one, in terms of key rotation, how does it deal with data which have been encrypted with a previous key?
Normally, when you do a key rotation, the new version of the key is sent up, and new data will be encrypted with that. And the old key is sort of semi-retired for decryption. So it cannot be used for new encryption. But you can force to re-encrypt. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw a thumb.
Next question. How do you ensure HSM redundancy so this product does not become a critical SPOF, single point of failure?
Sure.
Yeah,
So just remember that HSMs and Cipher Trust Manager are not the same thing. A key management server and HSM is not the same thing. So HSMs can store your keys, but if you wanted to manage keys via an HSM, you would do a lot of scripting and programming, etc. That's what a KMS does for you on top. So what you generally want to do is you want to have redundant KMSs and rooted to a hardware root of trust, redundant HSMs. So in other words, you would possibly have two and then join to another two at the back. Does that make sense?
Yep. There is a question around the training and certification.
So is there any process? Yeah, that's Damien. Targeted population to get certified. Damien, if you can contact me and Christophe Alexi, who's with me, we have training vouchers that we're able to provide you. We have courses every month, online courses, so you can take it at your own speed. But yeah, please reach out. We've got plenty of vouchers. It's part of the innovation fund to be able to fund these training, and we'll be delighted to help you with that. Question from, Michael. Hey, Michael. Forcing re-encryption is often a bad idea though because of cost of retrieval, replacement, and blob storage like S3. Yeah, I don't know whether, Tony, whether you got any comments on that?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay.
I have a question, James.
Yes.
If everybody on this call doesn't spend that 100K, I believe there was a clause that it goes to Tony, just by default at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think I removed that before we signed it.
Oh, all right.
I think there was a question as well. Who's the Spock? Can we go further back up, Jean-Claude? Can we just move up a bit? Yeah. Who is the Spock for this use case, please? That's Laure. Hello, Laure. So Spock for the use case. I mean, this use case obviously come to Christophe or myself for France, but obviously we can put you in touch with the CTO, the Capgemini CTO who presented this, and the Nordics team who built the use case with AWS in Norway. Okay. Another question from Joachim. How long could re-encryption take? Well, re-encryption is done. Is the data available? Tony, do you want to answer? Tony answered, all depends on the amount of data, of course, but
sorry.
yes. Yeah, no problem.
I was on mute, sorry.
No problem.
The re-encryption itself will be done by AWS. So I would have to go and perform tests on AWS. I know normally on premise or things like that, re-encryption, like was stated earlier, is not something you want to do for fun, because the more data, obviously, the longer it takes. Encryption is a number crunching operation, and it's not something you really want to do if you don't have to. That's why generally you have versioned keys. So when you do rotate, you would, like I said, retire the old one, or retire it for encryption, but leave it available for decryption by specific services. And then the new key will come in for encrypting new data. But you can obviously set up a workflow where you might want to start re-encrypting over time. The only real reason to re-encrypt is because you've had a breach and that key somehow got away from you, which is what we're here to stop in the first place.
Yeah, sorry, do you mind if I say something?
Please.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael.
How you doing? Good to talk to you guys again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear this a lot, honestly, from people who they see NIST or whatever and say you have to rotate key, and so they think that the rotation of a key demands the re-encryption of existing material. And so I would just suggest that if somebody comes to you and says, okay, you know, with this key rotation, how do I do this? You ask why. And you hit it on the head, right, Tony? It's like, if you've lost that key, it's a very good reason to re-encrypt all that material. But save for a lost key or the real threat, as you were talking about earlier, although I think we're a number of years away from quantum being the risk there. So it's really about yeah, you can set something up so that on retrieval, you mentioned the workflow, right? Upon retrieval, re-encrypt with the new key. Sure.
Yeah.
But anytime a client is saying, well, I now need to re-encrypt all my data because I did my key rotation this year, ask why, because chances are, no, they don't. And you're just going to save yourself a lot of headache compared to trying it. Unless, again, Tony, James, you guys want to sell that particular capability, but you don't make any money when they do that. AWS or Azure do, and they make enough as it is.
Absolutely. Well said, Michael.
Okay, any more questions? Are we okay? We're obviously available, motivated to work with you to win some first contracts and some more contracts. We've got this money. I'd love to spend this 100,000 euros for POCs, for testing customers who may want to test the first few workloads. Then great, let's use that money. Put the request in, and we'll get it validated. And we'll start using that money and building the pipeline with you and your customers.
Great,
Adrian?
Thanks a lot. We reached the end of the session. If any more question after the call, don't hesitate to come back to us, myself or Jean-Claude or James directly. We will get them answered, no worries. And in case you have only seen a part of the session, this has been recorded. Thanks a lot, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.